You are listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern vitality. If you are seeking to reconnect with your innate vibrancy, you're in the right place. I'm Emily Davis, a seasoned holistic esthetician and herbalist. Join me as we unlock the secrets of ancient skincare practices, explore the beauty of seasonal and nature-based living, herbalism, and true holistic well-being for you and the broader ecosystem. Welcome in. This is episode 20, which I'm very excited that we have been going 20 weeks strong. And if you've been listening since the beginning, thanks for being here. And if you're new, welcome and thanks for being here. I'm so excited to have all of you because today I have a very special guest, Lane Walker, who is a acupuncturist who's local to me here in Denver. And she's just such a wonderful breath of fresh air. She's such a wise woman. She has such powerful medicine to share with the world. I've been connected with Lane for a couple of years now, and I've just really been in awe of everything that she does, everything that she says, and she does it with such grace. So today we are going to talk about cosmetic acupuncture. She answers the question, is it an alternative to Botox? And because as this episode is airing, it will be on the evening of the summer solstice, and you'll probably be listening to it either the next day or weeks after, or who knows, maybe it's 2026 and you're listening. But we also talked about, like the summer season in traditional Chinese medicine and what that means and how you can optimize your wellness with that information. So, with a profound passion for guiding individuals toward optimal well-being, Lane embarks on a collaborative journey with her patients, tailoring treatments to their unique needs and aspirations. Grounded in the rich traditions of Chinese medicine, her practice specializes in digestive health, fertility, and pregnancy support, while also addressing chronic pain, injuries, and internal imbalances. Through a blend of acupuncture, Chinese herbal therapy, and focused bodywork, she creates personalized treatment plans aimed at restoring harmony and vitality. Her commitment to trauma-informed, patient-centered care ensures a nurturing environment while healing unfolds gently and effectively. After earning a bachelor's degree in cultural anthropology from the University of Colorado Boulder and a master's degree in acupuncture and Chinese medicine from the Colorado School of Traditional Chinese Medicine, she became a board-certified diplomat of acupuncture licensed by the state of Colorado. Early in her career, she worked alongside highly effective practitioners and pursued additional training in cosmetic facial acupuncture, trigger point injections, and orthopedics, with advanced study under Michelle Gellis, a renowned Chinese medicine dermatologist. She is uniquely trained to treat various skin conditions, including psoriasis, eczema, acne, among others. So I hope you just love Lane as much as I do. Before we begin, I want to remind our listeners that all content and every discussion shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. So please remember that the information shared is not intended to replace any professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health regimen. I will see you guys next week, and I hope you enjoy the interview. Well, hello, Lane. I'm so excited to have you here. I feel like it was maybe a little over a year ago that I was like, I'm going to start a podcast and I really want you to be on it. And then it took me forever to get it started. So, all in divine timing, though, but I'm so pleased to have you here. I think you are so brilliant. I'm so inspired by you. So I'd love for you to just introduce yourself, tell everybody a bit about your background and how you got here.
Wow, Emily, thank you so much for the kind introduction. I'm so excited to be speaking on your podcast today and speaking to your membership. I, as well, am just really excited about this conversation and to talk about Chinese medicine and the influence on the summer season and share a little bit about myself. So I'll dive in and kind of explain who I am and how I came to become an acupuncturist and licensed herbalist. I became an acupuncturist and licensed about 4 years ago. But what really brought me to the modality in the first place was when I was in college. I was about 19 years old and I had an injury in my body. My hip was bothering me. There was a lot of pain, and I had kind of done all of the Western medicine modalities and was looking for something different, something alternative that could support my body in a really nurturing way and safe way. And ultimately, I wanted to avoid getting surgery.
Yeah.
So I found a great acupuncturist. She ended up becoming a wonderful mentor of mine and really inspiring me in the journey to become an acupuncturist. But amidst working on my hip, we were also able to address my body holistically. And through that holistic support, my whole health changed, really had a 180 effect on my health. So during that time in my life, I was a college student. I was treating my body like crap, and other people's bodies were okay with that, but mine was not. So, growing up, I had some chronic digestive concerns that I had kind of tucked away and was like, I'm not going to worry about that so much. And then, come college, it came back and reared its ugly head. So we worked on my hip, but then we're also able to address the root causes of my digestive concerns. And it really just blew my mind, the impact that acupuncture had on my body. And this was really such a pivotal time in my health when I was learning to take care of myself. So through that whole experience, acupuncture just transformed my health, made me an instant kind of believer, you could say, in the medicine. And then shortly after graduating from undergraduate, I was like, I need to share this with other people. I need to learn more about this and be able to offer this. So, yeah, it's been a long journey, but I guess you could say it all started around 2012 when I became a patient of the medicine myself.
Wow, that is so interesting. And so, with your digestive health, did you see a change in your skin through working with, I'm assuming, both acupuncture and Chinese herbs together?
So, actually, my interest in skincare is not from my own skin concerns. I didn't necessarily have too many skin concerns related to my digestion, although there is such a link between that, but that wasn't how my symptoms were showing up in my
Mm.
body. And my pathway toward working on cosmetic acupuncture is a little bit different.
Tell us about cosmetic acupuncture and what that looks like, because that's one of the biggest and most common questions that I get from my clients in my studio is cosmetic acupuncture an alternative to Botox? What else can it help with aside from wrinkles? I think people also want to know like how they would find somebody to do cosmetic acupuncture. And obviously in Denver, you are an amazing option. But for people who live outside of our area, what would they look for in a cosmetic acupuncturist?
Sure. So, cosmetic acupuncture is one of my favorite modalities to perform, and it's something that really is a focus of my practice here in Denver. I love doing cosmetic acupuncture and get a lot of I love to see my patients see the transformations in their faces. You know, our face so important to our confidence and how we kind of portray ourselves to the world. So there's nothing better than helping a patient feel better about themselves in that way, and seeing that translate over into other parts of their health. But I personally was trained in cosmetic acupuncture by a specialist. Her name is Michelle Gellis. There are a few wonderful trainers of cosmetic acupuncture. They all do things a little bit differently, but she's a wonderful educator, and we really focus with her training on supporting collagen and elastin production. So that's wonderful at supporting graceful aging and reducing signs of fine lines and wrinkles on the skin. Bringing some more plumpness and elasticity to the skin. But cosmetic acupuncture is also wonderful for addressing other skin concerns. We can work on concerns like acne. We can work on concerns like rosacea and uneven skin tone. I see patients who experience different forms of acne as well. Like we can work on acne that's more like surface level with small whiteheads and blemishes. And I also work with patients who experience more deep rooted inflammatory acne that could be like painful and cystic. So, all of those different skin concerns we're looking at. In addition to looking at their skin and the surface of their skin, we're looking at the internal environment of the body and working on the different energetic imbalances and applying traditional Chinese medicine theory to the body to assess and understand what are the root causes of these skin concerns. So it's really a twofold strategy. And I see really amazing results for patients who a lot of the times have tried everything. They've seen estheticians, they've done chemical peels, lasers, seen registered dietitians, have changed different products. But when we work on it from both the internal organ perspective, as well as addressing emotional concerns and emotional imbalances, and then working on the skin through the actual cosmetic acupuncture, which is the application of needles to the skin and specific massage techniques on the skin surface, all of that combined, I really tend to see amazing results for patients who deal with some chronic health and skin problems.
Uh, that is so beautiful. What a truly holistic approach to skincare, which I think is so lost in the aesthetics community. And I think I also have a lot of estheticians who are listening in. So shout out to my estheticians. I think having a acupuncturist who you can refer clients to is such a wonderful partnership. And I always tell clients about you because I think that there's just so much that you can do with product, whereas herbs, acupuncture, and then you do so much more, which I think is so fascinating. And that's why I love following your social media. Onyx, is it Onyx Acupuncture?
Onyx Acu.
Onyx Acu. You just share so much beautiful whole body strategies, and I love that. Specifically for people who want it for wrinkles,
Yeah.
do you find there is obviously it's I always try to give everyone realistic expectations. It's not going to freeze your forehead. But do you see really good results as an alternative to Botox?
So I want to address that a little bit more carefully. It I would not say it's an alternative to Botox,
Mhm.
because technically with Botox, we're looking at the freezing of muscles. So we're restricting movement and we're reducing movement. Acupuncture and cosmetic acupuncture in particular, the name of the game and the whole goal is increasing circulation, which is truly an increase in movement. Maybe not movement of the muscle itself, but movement of lymphatic fluid, movement of blood, movement of chi. And all of that movement, what that helps to do is create even flow and harmony in those muscles. And so when we see restriction in the energy of those muscles, that's actually when we see abnormal patterns that create wrinkles. So if we can address those patterns, then the muscles become more relaxed, the chi and energy is flowing properly, and then we see a softening of those fine lines and wrinkles. Now, depending on when you start cosmetic acupuncture and what kind of the health of your skin or the state of the wrinkles are, really dictates what kind of results you will get. So I like to work with patients who might just start to be considering Botox, like maybe around the age of like uh, late 20s, early 30s, that's a great time to start cosmetic acupuncture because, for the most part, wrinkles probably aren't deeply set in at that point. And if we can work to soften those and also prevent deepening of those lines, we'll really see some great results there. It is tougher when I have a patient who comes in and they're, 60 years old or 60 plus years old, and they're looking for a strong reduction in their wrinkles. I normally tell them that that's not possible with our modality, but normally what we will see is a softening. Even if those wrinkles are pretty deep set in, patients will see a pretty dramatic softening, even if you are kind of in that 60 and over range. Yeah, so it really depends on what your skin goals are. How you take care of your skin is also very important too. So I often talk with patients about that, but I like them to be working with an esthetician or someone who can recommend the proper products for their specific skin as well, so that we're really getting the most out of the treatment. It goes further.
Oh, such a beautiful answer. And I agree wholeheartedly. I feel that way about facial massage as well, about lymphatic drainage, manipulation, about gua sha, all the things, facial cupping. It's not an alternative to Botox, it's the antidote to Botox. Um,
People will
uh,
ask me, they'll be like, is this like Botox? And I'm like, no, like not
yeah.
really. But what people will notice though, like that the tension in their muscles just relaxes so much so that they don't have that like holding interesting positions or tension to where you're manipulating your face in a way that's going to lead to those patterns of wrinkles. So
Oh, yeah.
it's a long way to get to that softening, and it's not an instant shot. It's not a magic shot like Botox, but if you're patient and you're diligent with the treatment and the treatment plan, we really do see a great reduction in that in those lines and a softening overall and more bounce, more elasticity.
Mm, all the things. I love that. Well, your skin is looking amazing. You look just so vibrant and full of life. And with that, I want to, because this is going to come out on the summer solstice. And I know that you have told me in the past that it doesn't necessarily just like now it's the first day of summer and all of the sudden it's summer season in TCM. But I would love to talk about the concept of living seasonally according to traditional Chinese medicine and how summer specifically influences our health and our well being in the context or under the lens of traditional Chinese medicine.
Love that question. So, living seasonally is a big kind of cornerstone or concept related to Chinese medicine. And the reason why is because each of the different organs in our body relate to a different season. And we actually have an extra season too. We have a season that's called late summer. So, we can talk about that one too, because that one's fun.
Oh,
Yeah. And when we live according to the seasons, what that means to me is adjusting your diet, your lifestyle, and activities according to that season. And you're right on. It's not about, okay, summer solstice hits, it's X day on the calendar. Now we make those changes. But a lot of the times, those changes can come based off of kind of the weather patterns of that year. So even like currently, right now, we're talking, and it's currently still spring, but it's going to reach almost 100 degrees today with that really hot, like oveny feeling outside. I would classify that we're really already moving into that summer season. So we can be a little bit flexible with it. And then depending on where you are in the world, that also plays a part.
I'd love to know just like what that looks like from a person who their lifestyle. I'm assuming you weave Chinese medicine into your lifestyle. So, what does that look like for you, or even how you recommend to your client, or if you do recommend that to your clients?
Yeah, there are some easy ways that we can make those changes and incorporate those lifestyle and dietary and exercise changes to live seasonally. And so, some of the easy ways that we can do that is eating seasonally. So, if you look at what foods are currently in season where you live in whatever part of the world you're in, those foods are actually energetically made to support your body at this time of year. So, some of the foods that support our body in summer are foods that are going to help our body to release some heat. And foods that help our body to release some heat are fresh fruits and vegetables. And so summertime, those become really plentiful. A lot of those fresh fruits and vegetables have a high water content. So we can look at foods like tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, all of those that they have a lot of water in them. And that water helps to balance out our body. And going back to kind of the basics with traditional Chinese medicine theory and the different organs and the seasons, summertime, that is our season of fire. So it's the fire element. And the organs that are related to the fire element and to the summer season are the heart and the small intestine. So everything that we're looking at with the summertime is supporting the heart and the small intestine to function properly and to balance out the fire that naturally comes with this time of year. This time of year is also the height of our yang energy. So there's yin and yang, and our yang energy is energy of heat, of action, of growth, of activity. So everything that we look at in terms of living seasonally is going to work to support and balance out those organs and those temperatures. So again, going back to the foods, those foods that contain a lot of water help to balance out the fire that naturally comes during summertime.
That is so interesting. And so, with the yang season, I'm assuming that's like a lot more movement, outdoor movement. Would you be doing things with your exercise to balance the fire and to like calm, or are you leaning into the fire and doing more like high intensity workouts, things like that?
So, because Chinese medicine is such an individualized medicine, we really take into account what the individual needs. I'll take, for example, a patient who tends toward building a lot of heat in their body. This is probably a patient who's going to say that they hate the summertime because a lot of symptoms are probably going to act up for them in the summertime. Heat is probably going to agitate them and might make them uncomfortable, angry, have insomnia or trouble sleeping. We might see like skin concerns or digestive concerns. But a lot of these imbalances might hit that heart and that small intestine organ, which kind of shine during this time of year. So while I'm giving you some general suggestions for supporting our body during the summer, really does depend on the individual, how these symptoms will show up in the body, and exactly what suggestions I would have for them. But one of the best things that anyone can do in the summer, especially if it's hot, very hot, is go do exercise by the water or in the water. So we want to balance
Oh.
out the fire that naturally comes from the summertime and from all of that yang energy that's super plentiful, and go by the water. So swimming is a great activity in the summer. Another good activity is just sitting by the water. You can, I mean, naturally, when we go sit by the water, it feels a little cooler. It's a great place to balance out that heat, but also you're going to receive the energy from the water element that is in your kind of sphere and in your realm. So anything on the water, that's your activity for summer.
Oh, I love that. And I never thought of that before. And I am so drawn to like walking next to the creek or even just going and sitting, putting my feet in it. That's so interesting. When you talked about like this is a great time for fresh fruits and produce and things like that, how do you what is your specific lens on like a smoothie in the morning and how that affects digestion? Because I do find myself drawn, and I'm sure many people do, in our modern world, drawn to wanting to make a smoothie for breakfast, but I'm also like wondering if I'm putting out my digestive fire and like ruining my digestion for the day.
You're not ruining your digestion.
Oh, good.
Let me just tell
Thank
you
God.
that. You're off the hook. Don't worry. Don't worry. This is a great time of year to start introducing smoothies, salads, uh, cold pressed juices. If you're someone who it leans toward having trouble digesting these foods, if you feel like you get an upset stomach after these foods, then we might need to examine them. We might need to balance them out with some warming spices or have them not be quite freezing or right from the refrigerator. But in terms of those cold, energetic foods, I would say now, spring, end of spring, beginning of summer, great time to lean into those foods. You want to make sure that you're also having a variety of cooked foods. I love the option of like a grilled salad, like a grilled vegetable salad, where you are infusing some warmth into those foods. You're pre-digesting them a little, which makes it easier on the stomach, but then you put them in the refrigerator so that it is still refreshing, like at a summer barbecue. So that's one of my favorite things for summertime. You can also use some cooling herbs as well on food. So great time to add like mint to your salads. And cilantro can also be kind of cooling. Some of the bitter herbs help our body to cool off as well. Um, so I love to play around with food this time of year and help use that to support our energy in the best way.
Oh, I love that. And I'm so relieved because I have this like low grade guilt that I'm doing the wrong thing, even though I love smoothies in the summer. Um, as far as herbs go, since you brought them up, are there any specific herbs that you really love to support the heart and small intestine during this season?
Yes. So kitchen herbs aside, herbs that I like to use medicinally, more medicinally in like teas or in formulas. We can focus on some red herbs in summertime. Those red herbs will help to support our heart and small intestine specifically. So rose and hawthorn are really nice. Rose is great, especially for patients who are having more like emotional agitation or trouble with sleep during the summertime due to the heat. And then hawthorn, I like for patients who have digestive disturbances during the summertime. That will help your body to break down some tougher foods.
I love rose. I love hawthorn. I actually just recently learned that hawthorn was supportive toward digestion and like fat digestion. I thought that was so interesting. Do you recommend like those two together in a tea often? Are you a more of a fan of like tincture? I know that Chinese medicine is so interesting in that the formulations are many compilations of herbs. And so to get something personalized, of course, somebody would want to work with their practitioner. Um, But do you tend to just like drink rose tea every day, or what does that look like for you?
I will blend some teas typically based off of how I'm feeling. I encourage people to work with different medicinal teas. You know, if you're looking for a true Chinese medicine prescription that you decoct on your stove and you store in your fridge for a few days that has really, therapeutic properties, definitely suggest working with a practitioner who can work with your individual constitution and needs. But I highly encourage people to play around in their kitchen. And while teas are gentle, they still can have profound effects. So I definitely encourage patients to play around and do whatever you're feeling called to. You know, it's fun to also like sit with the tea and sit with the medicine that you're experiencing and really experience like how do you interpret that and how do you process that. So what that means for me is maybe taking a few sips, doing a quick body scan and dropping in and seeing where am I experiencing some shifts or sensations. And that might vary from person to person or even from experience to experience within that individual. So
That's beautiful. I love that call to action. Are there any specific health, like I know in springtime is liver season, and so maybe we'll see an uptick in like breakouts when there's that extra what's the word, that extra pressure, I suppose you could say, put on the liver after the winter and as we're shedding everything. And so as we're in heart and small intestine season, are there any specific um, maybe overall health concerns, but then also specifically face skin issues that people tend to see in the summer?
yeah, so in Chinese medicine, we actually have a pattern that's called summer heat. It is a condition, it's an affliction that happens to our body. It can happen to our body. The most closely related condition in Western medicine is heat stroke. But when we think about heat stroke, we think of it like all or nothing. And summer heat is really more kind of on a spectrum. So it's not about do you have summer heat or do you not have summer heat? It's more about what degree of summer heat are you experiencing. So, but summer heat really is extreme dehydration. And we're both in Colorado right now, and we're always fighting dehydration. And then
Yes.
throw in the 100-degree temperatures, and what that does is the yang energy in that heat burns up body fluids. It burns up our internal yin. So again, going back to those foods and lifestyle practices and exercise and being in the water, that helps to preserve our yin and support our yin energy. But when that balance is disrupted and there's not enough yin, we end up with extreme dehydration. We end up with that summer heat, and then leading to, at its worst stages, heat stroke or heat exhaustion. And that can show up in the body in a number of ways, but really on our skin, dehydration, we'll see just a ton of dryness. And in addition to that, heat on our skin can just drive any inflammatory process. So if you already have some sort of inflammatory skin condition, the heat normally will aggravate that because inflammation is a form of heat according to our medicine. So we'll
Sure.
see inflammatory skin conditions get worse typically if we don't address that imbalance. We'll see skin dryness get worse typically, and then just general redness as well. Again, going back to that Chinese medicine theory with the organs, red is associated with summer, it's associated with the heart organ, and it's associated with heat. So we'll tend to just see more general redness. So patients who struggle with rosacea, they'll have more rosacea in the summertime. Yeah, those are generally the skin concerns that I see. Unfortunately, summer tends to just aggravate everything, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see that in my practice as well. So I feel like it's a great time to topically address inflammation, using cooling types of products, lots of marshmallow, all the hydration tonics, rose water, I think is such a beautiful thing topically this time of year. Um, yeah, I think that's such an interesting thing to notice in your own skin and then working to counteract that. Are there any other like foods or lifestyle recommendations that you recommend to counteract heat? Maybe like I'm thinking like hibiscus, sour, drinking lots of water.
I was gonna say drinking water. I know that that's like a duh statement, but it's something that I am working on with almost all my patients all the time. So drinking water, but making sure that you're also drinking electrolytes. You can just add a pinch of high quality Himalayan salt or sea salt to your water, or purchase like an electrolyte powder or tablet, just to make sure that you are replacing lost electrolytes, making sure that the water actually gets ushered into the cells instead of just running through your body. So hydrating, super important. If that's actually like foundational. If you're not doing that, then nothing else that we're saying in this whole podcast really even matters. But another, and I touched upon this briefly, but another flavor of foods that we can focus on is bitter. So bitter foods are cooling. So dark leafy greens, wonderful. I would say that that's kind of our best bitter food that we have in our culture. But there's also one of the most common foods that they eat in Asia during summertime is bitter melon as well. But we don't tend to eat that quite as much in American culture. But you always go to the Chinese grocery store or Asian grocery store. You can see some good foods there and get some bitter melon.
Oh. Oh, I hadn't even thought of going there too. So I just started a tincture from Organic Olivia. It's her gluco bitters
Mhm.
and it has bitter melon and I wasn't familiar with that. And it is bitter. Like it's really bitter, but it's not like it's bitter in a good way. I feel like I've been craving it. And so that's so interesting. I didn't even think to go there to try and play with that. How would you prepare that? Or I guess I can look up recipes online, but do you have any specific preparation?
I don't have a
Okay.
specific preparation. Some other great foods that are really common this time of year from a Chinese medicine perspective that again, like you might only find them at the Asian grocery store, but it's worth a visit. Chrysanthemum tea. Chrysanthemum is very, very cooling. It's also really pretty. It's like a flower, so really pretty. Um,
Well,
Chrysanthemum tea, and then beans too. We don't necessarily think of beans as cooling, but two kinds of beans that are especially cooling for our body and help our body to maintain proper fluid balance is adzuki beans and mung beans. So both of
ooh.
those are wonderful for helping our body with fluid balance. It's common for patients with dehydration. It's not always about not getting enough water, but it's about getting the water into the cells, like I mentioned with electrolytes. But sometimes we'll even see patients who experience swelling during the summer. And that swelling is indicative of improper fluid balance, where fluids, you might be drinking enough water, but it's getting stuck somewhere. So, adzuki beans and mung beans are great for helping to drain some excess fluid from the body and clear some heat through the fluid. It's actually you clear the heat through your pee, so it makes you need to
Ah,
pee.
okay. I have never heard that before about beans. That's so fascinating and so cool to know about. I love that. So, as we move through summer, you mentioned there's a late summer season. And what does that look like? When would we know we're in late summer? And what do you recommend people do to support their health during late summer?
Late summer is a fascinating season. It happens just like the name says in the latest part of summer. So I would say like beginning of September or end of August. It's really when like when I picture late summer in my head, I picture like the earth is a little scorched. Things are kind of dead here. And things are, you can start to feel that fall season is upon us, but things are still very, very hot. And that time of year is related to our digestion, actually. So it's a time of year when we want to really focus on supporting our digestion in the best way possible. And that is also helping to build some reserves in our body as we move into a time when our yang energy starts to dwindle.
Ah, okay. That makes so much sense because it does feel like its own season separate from this time of year when there's so much. Not that there's not abundance then, because I feel like that's also such a big harvest time, but right now feels so different than that scorched earth end of August time. Um, Oh, well, I love that. I feel like this has been so helpful and so uh, insightful for people who I think that seasonal living is just becoming so much more mainstream. It's becoming so common for people to want to lean into the season that they're living in so that they can support themselves throughout the rest of the year. And would you agree that leaning into this seasonal living is going to? I found that I burnt myself out a little bit in winter this year and I was feeling it in the spring. Like, do you feel that seasonally living is also prepping yourself for the next season as well?
Totally. It's it's interesting because I'll often see patients experiencing, a number of imbalances when they're fighting the seasons. So we can look at, summer people don't tend to fight the summer season in terms of, there's abundant yang energy and it makes people want to be active, and we tend to lean into that. But on the opposite side of the coin, winter time is our time to really lay fallow and relax and go inward. And if we fight that, then we'll tend to see a lot of imbalances at that time of year. So that's one aspect. And then I just want to sprinkle in another like cool fun fact about Chinese medicine. But we have these days of year that's called the San Fu days. And those San Fu days they're actually the days of year that have the most yang energy of the year. And on those days of year, if you can get acupuncture around that time, or get a special San Fu herbal treatment, which is very particular. It works specifically for allergies. What that does is it helps your body to harvest and hold on to and cultivate as much of that yang energy that we have and allow us to use it the whole rest of the year. So it is really powerful. And especially during the summer season, these San Fu days, they're like kind of the most powerful days of the year that we can apply that concept. But any time of the year, we can use a similar concept. If we live seasonally, if we use the energy in accordance with what's going on universally and planetarily and align that to our body, we'll see that carry over into other times of the year when we are needing some of that energy or needing to draw upon that.
Ooh, so when are it's San Fu? Am
Yeah,
I
I need
saying
to
it
look
right?
up exactly when it is this year because they go off of a different calendar, so it changes every year. Um,
Okay.
but I'll get that information for you, Emily.
Cool. Oh, that's amazing. I have never heard of that. That's a very cool fun fact. Um, so how can people connect with you if they're listening and they love you as much as I do, and if they're interested to receive treatment from you?
So I practice in Northwest Denver in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and my clinic. You can head online to book appointments. You can view some more information about my services on my website www.onyxacu.com, and then my Instagram handle is the same at onyxacu. And I love to connect. I love to chat. So if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out, like message me, DM me. Let's start a conversation. Let's talk about herbs, Chinese medicine, skincare. Yeah, whatever's on your mind. But I'm taking new patients, and cosmetic acupuncture is something that I do focus on. So that's also a service that's available.
Oh, amazing. And I highly recommend checking it out, going to see her. I think it's such a beautiful complement to all of the other modalities available out there. And I just want to thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for sharing with us. And I very much hope to have you on again in the future to talk about all of the things again.
Thank you so much, Emily. This was such a great conversation, and I'm excited to continue a conversation about seasonal living with you.
You've been listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality. If you liked what you heard today, consider giving me a 5-star rating. It helps other people just like you find the show. You can shop products and find all of my offerings on my website, stratumaesthetics.com, and follow me on my social channels at Stratum Aesthetics.